I know this episode is titled Using Your Degree Beyond What It's Intended For, but this episode and this great conversation I have with a great friend of mine is a great episode for anyone who is interested in pivoting from where they are to where they want to be, no matter if they have a degree or not. So if that is you, I will stay tuned until after the music.
You're about to listen to a great episode of the Laz and B Experience podcast. Within this episode, my hope is that you obtain something that will help you find your success. So grab a pen, get your paper, your favorite snack or drink, and really listen to what I have to say. I truly believe it can be what you need to get you to your next level in life. So grab a seat and enjoy the ride, and I'll see you on the other side. Welcome to another episode of the Laz and B Experience podcast. Thank you guys for listening in, and hopefully by you listening in, you get something from it that can help you along your journey to your success. So today I have a special guest with me today, and as you all probably know by now, I always say my guests are special because I specifically sought after them because I felt they have something that can help other people. So my guest for today, we've known each other for quite a while now. We are both part of the same NSB chapter, did a lot of leadership together, and now she's doing great things on her own as well. So without further ado, I do want to introduce my guest for today, Brianna Smyles.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. I'm excited. I'm very excited for this. This is my first interview podcast situation, and I'll go more into what I've done, but I'm very excited. I don't know where it's gonna go, but I'm very excited for this topic, or even if we don't stay on topic, hopefully we do.
I mean, there was one episode, I don't know if it's out yet, but where it wasn't planned to talk about one thing, but it ended up happening. So I mean, anything can happen, and it's all great information, so it's not like bad information.
That is true. That is very true. That is very true.
So if you can't tell by the title, today we're going to be talking about using your degree beyond what it is intended for. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people do that, and a lot of people are going to do that. So I think it's good to have kind of a roadmap to help you get to where you want to be. So with the first question, if you can, just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are someone we can go to when it comes to using your degree beyond what it's intended for.
So some background behind me, and Josh has so lovely stated. I have been a part of multiple things throughout college. We'll start in college before we go way back. So started in college. I went to Northern Illinois University, and I got my degree in mechanical engineering. And then while in college, I did things like being a community advisor. We call them community advisors instead of RAs, which is resident assistants at Northern. I was part of our beautiful NSB chapter.
Which stands for National Society of Black Engineers.
Yes.
For those who don't know.
Yes.
If you've been listening to my episodes, you should.
Shut up by now. So I was part of that. And that's a long list, laundry list.
I was like, don't skip over everything.
I was about to say, I've been our senator. I was program chair. Fun fact, Josh is the one who made me program chair and told me I should be a leader. So just for your listeners, a lot of my success in NSB started with him, and he'll never take the credit, but
I won't.
But it started with him. And then I got to be our chapter's vice president. That was pressured by Malik. Thank you very much. A lot of things have been pressured by people in NSB. Anyways, then I was our fall regional conference planning chair in 2019 before the pandemic. That was beautiful. And now I'm just doing a lot of post graduation stuff, like being our chapter advisor, hopefully planning committee, convention chair. That is
for annual convention.
Yeah, for when it comes here.
Okay,
that is the goal. That's the goal. I don't know. We'll see. Speaking out into existence. I have to do a lot of work. And then besides that, other things that I've done, I was part of the international study abroad ambassadorship at school. I had the wonderful opportunity to go to China to study engineering, 2 classes there. I played rugby at my school. That was so fun. 3 years. Stopped because my mom and dad got afraid that I was going to hurt myself. And I met a lot of beautiful people, wonderful relationships with different professors and teachers. And now I'm post-graduation that's still connected to school. I'm also the Alumni Association board president for our engineering group. So that's holistically what I did in college. Also like working here and there. And then before all that, I've done things like bartending. I've been a restaurant supervisor. What else have I done? I've done a lot of church activities, church planning, event planning. So just because I have my degree in mechanical engineering and where I've been seeing myself going in the future, it hasn't been just on that pathway. So that's a little bit about me.
So getting into the topic for today, like, what do you mean when you say using your degree beyond what is intent or what it's intended for?
Yeah, so I guess there's this notion in society that we have today that, you go to school. First of all, we have this idea that we have to go to school to do something. And unfortunately, with how the economy is going, yes, having a bachelor's degree is kind of the first starting point. But there are other things that you can do, not necessarily going to get a degree right away. I think it's good to get a degree, but it doesn't mean you have to come straight out of high school. Because at 18, I didn't know what I wanted to do coming out of.
And it doesn't mean you have to go to a 4-year university either.
Yeah, it doesn't.
College, trade schools, and all that kind of stuff.
Correct. And so it's like when you go into school, and I did my path. So my parents encouraged whatever it is I was going to do. They were going to support me 110%. It was it was going to college. I originally wanted to go to school to be a art major, specifically in visual art, painting. Kid you not, the day of college enrollment day, I was like, I'm going to switch to engineering because I'm good at art and I'm good at math, and that's what engineering is. Engineering is not just good at art and good at math. Got the math down. We were successful in that, but it was very hard throughout my degree to get it. And after I came out of having the degree, it's like, okay, I have this mechanical engineering degree. Mind you, I graduated right before the pandemic. I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do now with the degree? So it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you have your degree, you have to go into that field. You have to do, everything you studied. You kind of have a choose your own pathway, or like, I know they have, this is for people who actually read books. There's like a choose your own reading adventure, but then you have the choose your own game adventure. You have your own adventures that you could choose once you have your degree. All a degree does is give you leverage to go where you want to go. It provides a good backbone, a good structure. And we'll get into it. It just depends on what that degree is and how you want to use that degree. Yeah. That's the challenging part, is knowing, hey, I have my degree. Is it the right degree to pivot in life when I want to pivot?
Yeah. And then getting a degree is not just about the paper. It's about the connections you make and the skills you learn throughout your time. Yeah. Because that paper really doesn't mean a lot. Like it means that you know how to go to class, take tests, and pass classes. And that's I've never in my life been a good test taker. I am not a good test taker. I have test anxiety. Didn't realize that until junior year of college. It took that long. I'm not a good test taker, but I'm really good at understanding the concept, like working through a problem, all the group projects. I was a good a leader in structuring, like, this is our timeline, and I was always good at that. But the minute I sit down and take a test, that's not me. That was same thing in high school. Did great in high school. That ACT came around, I only had my highest, I took it twice, was only 2020, actually 2021. I think that's the same thing for me.
So test doesn't always mean you're smart.
Yeah,
and I hate that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So what are some reasons why someone would want to even pivot from their degree path, or pivot from what they got the degree in? Yeah.
So I'll speak on personal experience to begin with. So something that I've always been into, as mentioned before, I love art. I love being creative. I love looking at the world in in a creative viewpoint. So how did somebody go about making this item, or go about presenting this thought process, or go about building this building? And I think that's why I was intrigued in engineering. And then going through the degree, it provided me the technical aspect, which is great. I'm happy for my engineering degree. By no means am I upset by it, but I still never got to use my creative side in engineering. There was never, I shouldn't say never, but we didn't have many hands-on projects. Yes, we had class projects, and yes, I did a couple things outside of class with organizations, but trying to balance all that, I never got into a lot of my creative side. So things that I did, I love to paint. I make jewelry.
My sister's paint. I don't know if you can see that painting.
I know, I see. I love it. I love it.
Well, I think my sister just left for school today, but she had some. She was making these fish or whatever, but it was like really nice.
Yeah. So
and then my sister-in-law, she also does jewelry. So
yeah. So like I like those things because they're creative outlets, and I'm trying to hone back in on them. I think I'm pretty good, so I've been told. But engineering didn't always allow me to do that creative side. So me pivoting, or me trying to pivot in my life, I guess you should say, is how do I incorporate my creative side more into my analytical engineering mind? And going to school just helped me realize I can do that, one, and number two, how to put a plan in action to do so. And so somebody who would want to use their degree beyond what it's intended is somebody who has always known, like, hey, I have other passions in life and I really want to do these other passions. This is my main passion, but I have like 4 or 5 other passions, and this is how I'm going to go about doing it. So usually those are the type of people that are kind of indecisive. There's a word that Karen and I we were using, and I can't think of it right now, but you're not on a linear path when it comes to just one degree. Like, you're very multi-level. You have multiple things you want to do. You're not singly focused on one thing. So those are the type of people and it's okay. Like, I think, again, the notion is, you go to school, you get this degree, and that's it. That's all. You got to stay in there and work your way up. It's like, no, you can pivot. I think as society is getting more advanced and everybody's having more of an open mind, you do see a lot of people going completely into different fields at different times of their life, whether that's 30, 50, 60, and 70. And that pivot is always okay. The question is, do you just have a plan for that pivot, and do you have a good groundwork?
Yeah. So where would someone start if they're thinking about pivoting from their degree path, whether they're still working on their degree and they know they almost finished, so it's like there's no point of trying to switch majors or anything, and somebody who might already be done and have a job, but they want to pivot to something else? Yeah.
I'm a strong believer in planning and writing things down. You could have all the thoughts, you could have all the conversations with people saying, I'm thinking about pivoting, I'm thinking about doing this, but your first action is writing it down and saying, here's my goal. You may not have a date, you may not have an actual plan, that's great, but if you write down, your goal or what you want to pivot to, and maybe how it makes you feel, and like, what is your main reason? Yeah. Those are really good steps. So what you want to do, how does it make you feel, and maybe the pathway that you want to take to get there. Like, that's all you really need to start. And the timeline will come with it. You trying to figure out how you're going to get there is going to come with it. It's going to be a trial and error basis. It's going to be okay. You're going to need time to think. You're not going to get it on the first time around. You're not going to be able to say, hey, this is the exact plan, I'm gonna follow it. You're going to have a lot of falls. But yeah, and another good thing, and the good thing about going to college and getting the degree, you meet so many different people within your degree, like you mentioned at the start. And people who are not in your degree, correct, especially depending on what organizations you're a part of. Yeah, and that's another, and that you bring up a good point. Like, when you're in college getting a degree, which is why I'm a strong advocate of being in college, not necessarily online classes, but I mean, got to do what you got to do. But being in college, you meet these different groups of people, and you may bond over one topic. You may not bond over one topic, but you at least have now made that one connection where if you ever need to go back in life and switch something up, or have a business partner, or just ask if somebody has a job, or if somebody has any opportunities, or for example, somebody signed a podcast and they need you to talk, like you at least have that connection to do those. And you never know what those connections are going to lead to. You never know when you're also going to need that connection or be a part of something. That's also why you want to always treat people with respect and be nice, because your small actions that you've done with them doesn't mean won't ever go unnoticed. They may need you, and they'll come back to you and say, hey, I know we weren't really close as friends, but we had this one class we were really in common together, and we worked well together, and I would really like for you to be a part of XYZ. So just people, man, just be nice to people too.
So what are some resources people can go to when they're looking for help when it comes to trying to find a way to get to where they want to be that's not within their degree? Yeah, so
that's a loaded question, because I think it also depends on what you're looking for. So to start, obviously talking to the people in your area, talking to people just hanging around different crowds, perhaps. Not being afraid to do things by yourself. So if you see in your neighborhood or in your community, like, hey, there is a event being thrown where you get to do a free skill for the day, go and try to do that free event and that skill. You never know where that's going to lead. Or maybe you're going into, let's say, movies, for example, and they're having an indie fest, and they're having all these movie directors or independent movie labels coming to try and showcase their movies. Go to those things. So go find things that are free and cheap, because I'm all about budgeting. And just seeing how can you get involved in small ways. That doesn't necessarily mean jumping in and doing it, but if you want to pivot your life into that segue, you have to put yourself in those spaces to allow yourself to grow and to learn at the same time. Because more often than not, one is trying to pivot their pathway because that's how they feel or that's what they want to do, but they don't always have the skills to do it. So you have to go through a relearning skill period of trying to find the right things or right aspects of the do's and don'ts. And you're going to try and fail. The other cool thing is with our society today and where we live, the internet is a beautiful place.
Yes,
so
it can be, at least.
In this context, it's a beautiful place. So you could do your research. You could YouTube it out. Watch a lot of things. There's one of my favorite YouTubers. Her name is Exo McKenna. She is a DIYer. And she recently last year bought a house, and she is renovating the house completely by herself. Now she has no carpentry skills at all. And she also came from a background of, I believe she was a VP in a jewelry firm, marketing. So she worked her way up, and she said, that was it. That's it. I want to pivot my life, become, more into this creative DIY. And then her and her current boyfriend also got, they have a house together that they're DIYing. Like, she's one of my personal inspirations in the sense of, like, you don't need to have skills right away to do what you want to make that pivot. But if you're willing to learn, if you're willing to do trial and error, it's gonna come over time. And then now you're just adding a new skill into your little bucket of skills that you have, and then you'll be able to keep going further and enjoy the failures and the process as you're going, because the failures build you probably more than your success, I would say, because with your failures, you know what not to do.
And then I was going to say, off your first point, volunteering is a great way to also, because with volunteering, you're learning new skills, hopefully. You're meeting new people who like to give. So if they ever have an opportunity that they can give to somebody else, they would definitely want to give it to somebody, definitely, if they're also volunteering. So
Yeah, and growing up, that was one thing that my mom always made sure me and my sister did. Between sports on the weekdays, we volunteered every Saturday. I grew up with like not watching much TV. That's why I binged watching TV in college. But my mom would take us every Saturday, like Saturday mornings was that volunteering, whether that was through the church, through her job. And that's how me and my sister got a lot of our people skills. We've gotten very diverse in learning different cultures because through her job we were able to go into different communities in Chicago, and being in Chicago, every community is very, very diverse here. And so through those volunteering experience, you gain so much, you meet so many different people, you get so many different perspectives, and you never know what it's going to open. My dad, he's currently trying to do a life change too, and he does a lot of volunteering with this organization called Breakthrough here in Chicago. And he does it every Saturday, and it's volunteering, giving out food to the community. And they've been talking with him about how to become a community activist as well. And he never thought that would be possible, but all he did was stay consistent with going to be a volunteer every Saturday, bring my mom, bring my sister along, whenever they have the opportunity. But if they weren't going, he was up at, I think it starts at 8, so he's up at 7 actively going, because he thoroughly enjoys seeing people just be happy by you giving them whatever they had to give. So yeah.
I'm pretty sure we talked about some of this already, but what are some other tips or tricks you can give to somebody who's in that process or thinking about doing that pivot?
Doing a pivot, you don't need to always, like, again, you don't need to have your plan set in place. Like, I think that's the first thing. You could always make the pivot at any point in your life. If you're going to make the pivot in the middle of college, I would say at least I feel like you should at least finish that degree. You already put half the money into going to school. So finish the degree out. But as you're going to finishing the degree out, figure out where that degree can take you. Do your research on if I'm coming out with a degree in communications, and your original thing is you want to go be a broadcaster for some network. Okay, that's no longer what you want to do. Well, what else can you do with your communications degree? What else can you do with said degree, and try to see where your personal alignments line up. So that's one thing. Another thing that you want to consider is this the right season to do your pivot? Maybe the right season is in 2 years. Maybe the right season is when you're turning 30 or doing a huge milestone. Maybe the right season is like right now because you see the market growing for whatever it is. You have to, once you figure out your plan, the timeline again will come, but you at least have to think about when you want to do that pivot. That again, you don't have to have the exact timeline, but you have to at least think about when is this time that I want to do it. I think another thing is when we're young, we have the idea like life is short, but we have the idea when we're young, like I gotta do everything right now. I have to do everything right now. I have to do this. I have to do that. I think as I'm getting older, and my mom said this would happen, but as I'm getting older, it's like I have time, even though life is short. I do have time to do my changes. I don't have to do everything before a certain age. Yes, you have a bucket list, and yes, you want to do it. But you still have time to do so. So whatever plan that you make in the time frame that you do, make sure it's a flexible plan, unless it's like recent deadlines, get those deadlines done. But make sure you always have that flexible plan. Like if you never know where life is going to take you, or what's going to be thrown at you, or where opportunity is going to go. But if you at least have that plan of, hey, you want to do it, and here's some steps, no matter at that time, you'll be able to make that pivot. Or at least start the pivot. Yeah,
I was going to say, especially for those who are younger, 18, 20, whatever, make as many pivots as you need to. Like, try as many things as you can, because that's the only way you can figure out if that's something you want to do. Especially if you don't have a lot of responsibilities, you don't have kids, you don't have a wife or a husband or anything like that. That's the perfect time to like make those pivots. And if something you don't like, don't do it. and then move on to the next thing.
And that's that. You bring up a good point. The minute you have very strong like responsibilities, and when I mean strong, like the family, the commitment to a significant other, you own a house, or finally putting your loan into whatever your business is. Once you have those once you have those commitments, it becomes hard to make your pivots in life or using your background to change wherever you want to go.
Now, it's not impossible.
It's right. It's not impossible.
It's just a little bit harder.
Right. You have to now consider the other players on your team.
Yep.
When you're a solo team like myself, you could make pivots and be okay. So I was talking with my coworker, and it was funny. I was speaking with her, explaining like, yeah, I think, I'm starting this, I'm in the middle of my 5-year plan before I'm 30, and there's some things I want to do. And all my coworkers make, like fun, but not like mean fun, like light fun. I've already, since the pandemic, or since I should say, restrictions have been opening up because of the pandemic. I've traveled to Iceland, Greece, Puerto Rico, and I have Thailand coming up. I love traveling.
I'd be so jealous when I see your pictures on Instagram and stuff.
I love traveling. And the first thing that, because of school, using me being in school and getting my degree, engineering, going to China, that allowed me to say, oh my gosh, I love being culturally diverse and learning every culture. Me being a African-American black woman over here, African American, me being a black woman at the end of the day is like, I'm already a minority and I'm already exposed to so many experiences, but going to other countries and seeing other people's experience, you get even more an open mindset than what you already have. So I love traveling for that reason. And the idea of pivoting when it comes to, at least me personally, traveling is because I'm still young, I could still travel if I want to. I could still find, using my degree as being an engineer, and maybe finding a job that's in another country, or maybe being a traveling engineer. Like, I don't have to make that commitment, and that combines my love of traveling and my background of engineering. I also, I don't have a commitment when it comes to a house. I don't have a house. I rent. I could move if I wanted to the next day. Not literally the next day, but like within a certain time frame. I don't have anything holding me down personally. So because with no hard commitments and no significant other and no huge financial burdens, I'm able to make that pivot. Every time you add something, it becomes another level. So just take everybody else in consideration if you are trying to make a pivot and you're and you have other people around you, a family, a significant other, or if you have a house. And just, if you're going to make that pivot, make that plan about how you're going to make accommodations for said responsibilities in your life, and how are they going to pivot with you.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you do have other responsibilities, whether it be people or a mortgage, it's that communication that's going to make everything a little bit easier. As long as you're communicating with that person, or with those people, and you're making a plan together and everyone is agreeing to that plan, it can work. But as soon as you start doing things on your own, acting like you're single but you're not single, and then that can start a whole problems that you don't want to get involved in.
And that's going on a whole nother small little tangent. The fact that, like, me trying to find somebody in my life right now, you have exactly what you're saying. I'm being very communicative. The word?
That's a word. We're going to use it today.
Communicative about what my intentions and what my plans on in life. And I think when you're with a significant other, especially if you are both not married yet, but you're in a strong committed relationship and you've done so much throughout the years together, you really want to be able to have those discussions of like, hey babe, I've been thinking about doing this change in my life, or I really want to do this. How do you feel? And really, that goes back to the planning, really talking through that significant other about like, I'll support you, or I won't support you, but this is why, or I can't support you, but this is how much I want to support you, and really have those conversations. Again, don't know everybody else's relationships, but I think that's also why or I should say that's why you have people's relationships not work out, because they don't communicate. I think I was listening to a podcast on the way here, It's called Factual with Adam Conover, and his guest, I forgot her name, was explaining that you change. Everybody changes throughout their life, and you can't expect them to stay the exact same person that you met them at. So you have to meet them with change. And at the same time, let's say they're not changing, you're changing. And so when you see somebody's when they're seeing you change or you're changing, you have to have those conversations every so many periods to figure out if that's really if y'all relationship is still going to work, or if you still want to be together. So that's just a little tangent. Like, make sure if you're going to do the pivot with somebody else, just communicate. Even with your kids, like if you have kids and you're doing a pivot, explain to them. I'm a strong believer, because my mom taught us as well. A kid is never too young to understand a concept. You have to just make it age appropriate. So you have to explain to your kids, any slight change, or explain to them like, hey, you're going to start seeing change in the world, or change in our lives, but this is what it means to you. And this is how, mommy and daddy are going to be doing things a little bit different. This is maybe what you need from the kid. No kid is ever too young to understand. You just have to make it,
I like that,
age appropriate.
So you talked about your dad already, but do you have any other examples of people who are using their degree or pivoting from their degree path, or not just their degree path, but like the path that they're on now, and now they're switching to something else? Yeah,
I have a really perfect example of a person that always comes to mind. Karen Hubbard, one of my best friends. So she also she graduated from Purdue. I think her degree is in interdisciplinary engineering, I want to say,
it could be,
or maybe. Anyways, so she started off wanting to be biomedical, and then she went to interdisciplinary engineering.
Oh, I think I know you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, Karen, I know that name. I just don't know.
Okay. And then she worked for an engineering company, but in the process of that, she got into this company called Arbonne, a lot of products that I also use. And she introduced me to this company called Arbonne. And Arbonne is a company that sells products in beauty, skin, and their biggest line is the nutrition line, which helps you make better choices in life and better your life in all ways. All their products are vegan. All their products are words are hard because this is the first time like actually talking on it about it. All their products are vegan. All their products help with growing yourself. I love their nutrition line because it has a lot to do with making your health a number one priority, and working with your microbiome and working with your system to make sure that you're getting the nutrients that you need, and that they're good ones. So I bring all that up to say Karen got introduced to this because she had a lot of things that she was trying to figure out and make her life healthier. And as she got into it, you can become an independent consultant, and all you do with an independent consultant is you share your story about why the products have helped you. So she shared her story to me, and she's been doing this for, I want to say, 3-4 years now. And as you're moving up in Arbonne, you get different levels. So she's currently an area manager, and by being an area manager, she no longer had to do her engineering job. So now she's pivoting into the consulting business and working for herself by sharing these products that she uses in her everyday lives. And she's trying to work to a higher level. So she's one of the good examples of, yes, you may have an engineering degree or any degree, but you can make that pivot if you find something that is meaningful to you. And she's always been into nutrition. She's always been into health because she was a track runner in college, and she was always trying to figure out the right hacks or the right ways to make her body feel happy. And she's finally made that, and she's making that her everyday job now. Who knows with her? She's probably going to do another pivot in life. I could see it coming. But she at least has everything to follow now. So now she has her engineering degree to fall back on. She has this personal business that she has developed that is creating this wealth that she doesn't have to do every day now, because it's just naturally through her everyday social media post and the clients that she already built, that her clients can now client like me or independent consultant like me, we share the business. And when you build things like that, that's how you start getting more in your pocket and growing that business for yourself. So she's one person that I know, like right off the top of my head. I don't have anybody else right now.
I was gonna say I don't know these people like personally, but I follow them on social media. He's a comedian. His name is, he go by the stage name Kevin on Stage.
Yeah. Kevin on Stage.
Him and his wife, I guess they lived in Washington before he became a full-time comedian, and they made the move to California where they are now because he wanted to pursue that career as a comedian. And he had that, again, he communicated with his wife, because at that time, they were married, and I think they had their 2 kids, which they only have 2 kids now. But they had that communication to move to California so he can pursue his goals of being a comedian, which is what he's doing now. He's very successful at it. But his wife was someone who was really about like being in the corporate world, like moving up the corporate ladder and that kind of thing. And she was okay with that, and she was okay with doing that for the rest of her life and everything. Now that he's successful, and they actually had a podcast together called The Love Hour, which they don't do anymore, but you can still listen to it because they have a whole bunch of episodes. She is now transitioned from the corporate world to like being her own entrepreneur, being her own influencer. They have a streaming service called, is it Kevin on Stage streaming service? It's something like that. If you Google Kevin on Stage streaming service, you'll find it. And now she has like a show on there called it's like a dating show. I forgot the name of it, but I watch it, but I forgot the name of it for some reason. But like, she's doing that, and she's very successful at that. So she's had a couple pivots throughout her life, and like as long as you, again, if you're with someone, as long as you have that communication with them, and if you're by yourself, as long as you're making that plan, like, you can definitely do it.
Yeah, and I feel like that's gonna be my pathway that I follow, similar to her. I'm also a lot about the corporate world right now. I commend everybody who's an entrepreneur who could do their own business. That is a different type of level of mindset that I am not currently possessing. I will try to possess it, and I will try to do it. But the idea of being always in this what if state, or in this unsure state, or don't know if it's your big idea is going to turn out to be, financially rewarding or rewarding in general, and you had to go through all the trial errors. I commend them. I'm more that, like, I will make pivots in my life in corporate, with doing all the small things that I want to. So I do want to go into event planning as a side business. I love jewelry. I want to do my jewelry eventually. Hopefully my Arbonne business grows. So like there are things that I want to do. I don't have the confidence right now, that I am still developing, to have it be where I'm pivoting from corporate and becoming an entrepreneur. And that's a lot in life. I think currently how everybody is you're either an entrepreneur or you're not. And it's like, I'm not saying it's becoming shameful if you're an entrepreneur, but I think that's just with our generation, because we've seen our parents go through working 9 to 5 for the man, and, all these overtimes and struggling and all that good stuff. They want to say, well, I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to, I want to be my own boss. I was explaining to somebody, when you have so many people trying to be their own bosses, you have too many competing ideas, when a lot of people could just combine ideas and be a part of something together. And I think that's the one thing a lot of our generation and the younger generation, we're growing into being very having an individual mindset instead of a collective mindset. I have a collective mindset, so I don't mind supporting all my friends. I don't mind being the ride or die. I don't mind, like, if y'all gonna start a business, I'll financially support you. I'll be a guest on the podcast. I'll be your VP for something, or I'll be something. But I don't think I currently have the drive to create my own. I'd rather be the supportive.
And the thing is, everyone don't. I feel like everybody who say they want to be an entrepreneur only wants to be because they see what it could turn out to be. And I feel like, and I get this kind of from a guy. His name is Gary V. I watch his videos a lot, and he has a podcast and stuff like that too. But like, you can be the number 2 of a great business and be great, or number 3 or number 4, whatever it is. Like, you don't have to be the boss or the number 1 person. Like, if your skill set is geared towards a number 2 or number 3, use that, and you can still build wealth that way too.
I don't mind being number 2, number 3, because at the end of the day, there's still somebody above me that could take all the fall, and I could just, So, going back to the using your degree with a 10, I think that's another good thing. Do you wanna? Is your intent to be self-sufficient, or is it your intent to be a supportive figure in somebody's life? My intent is to be supportive by all means. If I happen to be, create my own, that's great. But I see myself working up in some form of a corporate ladder, making pivots, but not being by myself. Like, always being the support for somebody else. That's just me though.
But I was going to also point out what you were saying about like not wanting to take that leap to be an entrepreneur, which, I mean, it is a leap, but you don't have to take the full leap by itself.
Yeah.
Like, you can still work your 9 to 5 and do that side stuff after work or on the weekends and stuff like that. Because, I mean, I'm doing this podcast. Eventually, I'm hoping that it brings some revenue in the far future or whatever. But I still work my 9 to 5 job. I'm still going to class and trying to get my degree and everything like that. So,
but also online, you're doing the podcast because you originally want to talk with people and share their experience.
I originally wanted to do the podcast because I want to share my experience, and I felt like I'm not the only person who has experience that can help others. So that's why I wanted to have guests as well. And
I think that's the good thing. As long as you're doing something first because you love it, as my mom said, do what you love and the money will follow. She has preached that all throughout me and my sister's career path. So like, if you're gonna do something you love, the money will follow. And you'll again, entrepreneurs, I think a lot of mindset is, hey, I'm going to go in with entrepreneurship, instead of, hey, I'm going to go in with this idea, put my full love, pray over it, and then put it into the world. And hopefully the money will come. And in the meantime, I'm going to go to my 9 to 5. And like I said, not getting on all those who are entrepreneurs. Like, y'all are big ups to y'all. But I think at the same time, you have to have the mindset of like, you have to do things in tandem when you are an entrepreneur. You're trying to create by yourself, and it's okay to work for somebody until you're at a point where you don't have to work for somebody. Because that's another scary thing. Like, don't do your pivots if you don't have a backup plan.
Exactly.
If you're gonna pivot, make sure there's a backup plan or something you can always fall back to, because you never know where that's gonna go. And that's talking about from a financial perspective, but also just from a business perspective.
So do you think that it is easier or harder, depending on the degree you have, to pivot to other things? And if so, if you would like to give examples of maybe different degrees that you think it might be easier or might be harder to transition from.
Again, personal experience. So nobody come at me if you disagree. If you disagree, that's great. But I think I will be a strong advocate for engineering, because I have an engineering degree, you have an engineering degree, and I think engineering degrees or STEM degrees in general are really good backgrounds to having and then pivot, because as an engineer, you have this mindset that you know how to work a system, you know how to build a plan, and you know how to see that plan through. I think there's been so many like projects that we've been a part of, or like, here's a few scopes that you have. I need you to create a bicycle at the end of the day. So like, as an engineer, you have to create this, Gantt chart. You have to create all the materials that you're going to need. You're going to have to create this list of people you have to go to or who you have to work with. So like an engineering degree really develops the analytical mind, the process mind of anything. So in anything you build, whether that is a business or a community or whatever, you're always going to have to look at it in steps. You're always going to have to look at it in plan. So I think it's easier, say that with relative words. Engineers, we have that mindset going in already.
I mean, especially in today's world where everyone is looking for somebody in the STEM field, whether it's computer science or engineering or biology or whatever it is.
And that brings me to one of my favorite words, engineering diversity, if nobody knows what that is. And engineering diversity is a concept that in all different fields, whether that is politics, whether that is medicine, whether that is sports, whether that is the entertainment business, everybody's going to need an engineer, because there is some type of technological side that an engineer can do that, again, no shade, that a communication major can't do, or that a business major can't do. But engineers can also pivot into those other things, because we had to do it in our degree path to begin with. A lot of engineering degrees, anywhere you go, you're going to have to get some form of a minor or take electives that pivot, and that's another good aspect. If you're in college, definitely try to take, if they give you the chance to take minors or electives, try to gear those minors and electives to things that you really want to do. So all of my gen ed classes and electives were around art, and then when it came to engineering, all of my engineering classes was around manufacturing or global travel. So that's how I at least had the background. So yes, engineering, I feel like it's a good degree. Business obviously is a really good degree. It depends on what business, but for the most part, a business degree, you have that ability to work your way up in the chain and be management, and being leading. Something that's usually what business allows you to do: leading, management. Lost my train of thought, but yeah. I think communications could be a good degree if you use it effectively. I think if you go with a broad communications degree, it's kind of broad. I think you have to narrow it down. So maybe, I don't know my communications degree, but I know you could do things along like broadcasting or journalism, or things along that scope, and then try to use that if you're going to be more on the presenting side, or more on the business. The words are escaping me, but in general, communication is another good degree. You then get iffy when you get into degrees like psychology degrees, or
unless you go in to get a master's or something.
Correct. And that's where I was about to get to. When you get into degrees like psychology degrees, or even your medical degrees. So usually medical degrees, you know what you want to do. If you're going in for nursing, you want to be a nurse. If you go into dentistry school, you want to be a dentist. Those are I believe the hardest degrees to pivot, but you're usually pivoting in field. So if you're going to be a nurse, all right, you're going to be a nurse, but maybe you're a nurse in low income neighborhoods. Maybe you're a nurse in a traveling nurse. Maybe, so you could pivot in those, but more in times not, you're going to stay within that medical field. Prime example, my sister, she went to school for kinesiology, and now she's in school for physical therapy to get her doctor's and her master's in public health. She knows she wants to be a physical therapist. She's not changing that degree anytime soon. So that medical field tends to be the hardest to pivot, not because you don't want to, it's more since you already made up your mind.
Now it's not impossible.
No,
you can definitely in the world today, like she was saying earlier, the internet, there's so many things. If you are communications, or you are a nurse, you are a physical therapist, you can still learn different skills outside of a degree.
Correct.
And be successful at whatever path you want to take.
Yes. Again, not trying to say you can't make the pivot. It's just certain degrees allow you to make the pivot a little bit easier, because you're learning those skills already in college, and you don't have to relearn them or retake the time to to go back to school to figure things out. And that brings me to another aspect or another point. Consider if going back to school is a thing for you. Like, that's something that we all dread, that maybe I don't want to go back to school. Like, I'm done. I'll just make it work. But maybe you go back to school. Maybe you don't go back to school. Maybe you go back to get a certification or class. There's a lot of certifications out there, and you'd be surprised on how many companies will take you because you have a certification in something. So that's another good thing.
Like, kind of went into one of my questions, so we can talk about it a little bit more. Like, when do you think is the time to just make that pivot on your own, or when you should go back and get that degree, whether it's an advanced degree or a certificate or anything like that?
Yeah, so like pivot right now, I'm planning to go back to school. So I'm looking to apply now, and I'm going to go back for an industrial and systems degree, specifically in global logistics. Working at the company I work now, I enjoyed understanding the logistics of my company. And this is pertaining to logistics of like incoming goods, and working with our international logistics companies, and just bringing things in. Being a product of the pandemic and working through the pandemic, this is my new normal. And I've been hearing that all the time. I think everybody who has came out of college right before the pandemic started, or is in college while the pandemic's happening, and we get jobs after the pandemic, our way and thoughts in a business is completely pre-pandemic people, because we have to, specifically in supply chain, which is what my specific positions, and we have to look at things that, okay, all these things that are happening in the world is going to affect the supply chain. Not only that, we have a global pandemic that is still going on, and all these different variations of the virus going on, that you never know when a factory is going to drop at the hat. That has happened to me so much in this past year that I would think my product's coming. It's not coming because the plant overseas shut down, and now we have to figure out plan B. Plan C, D, E, and F. Like, so many plans have been put in place, and that's what made me want to go back to school for, is logistics, because I feel like it's going to be a very interesting topic to learn in these next couple of years, because trying to look at the world post-pandemic, we're still going. So we're still in a period of in the pandemic, and post-pandemic realities or post-pandemic actions doesn't happen, I don't think are going to start happening until like that 2025 mark.
Hopefully if nothing else happens. Yeah. But yeah, I think this is a good time for a lot of people. A lot of people have already been pivoting because the pandemic has brought out a lot of entrepreneurs and side hustles.
Yeah, side hustles and self-driving business. So if you do have that, I personally think this is one of the better times. Hopefully we don't go into a recession, but if we do, having that side business or hustle can help you make a little bit of extra income. But also in general, if you make the pivot now, a lot of companies are hiring because a lot of people are going into the side business. So you have these two things. You either can have your side business and build your entrepreneurship right now, because that is being very big. People are getting laid off left and right, and everybody needs to find some form of money, and entrepreneurship is going up. But then you also have the other side of, because everybody's leaving to this field, well, now you have so many jobs opening up in different fields where they need some form of experience, or they're going to teach you. I know at my job alone, there's a lot of positions open. So it's also a good time to move up the corporate ladder in general, and figure out other companies that you want to work for and get into other industries, because more than often not, they're hiring as well.
So getting kind of close to the end of this episode, what are some things that you can do to kind of manage the risk of like when you're trying to pivot, so you're not like putting yourself in a bad position if things don't go the way you want them to go?
Yeah, I think the risk, the one thing you like want to do this, if you don't take anything else like from this episode, at least right now, if you're even considering pivoting, start writing down what that pivot looks like. So like go to the couch, go to a chair, go to your desk, go to your bed, somewhere, and sit there and write, okay, I want to do this. Here's why I want to do it, and here's some steps. And then also figure out, okay, where do you see that your pivot being useful in, or like what section of the world is your pivot going into? So is it people driven? Is it business driven? Is it in the car industry? Is it in the health industry? Is it in the beauty industry? Like, figure out where you're trying to pivot into, and see if there's a market that you're wanting to pivot. So you just want to start jotting down ideas. You want to start writing your things down. By you writing it down, you're forcing yourself to look on the page and saying, okay, these are the things that I have to start thinking about and start doing. And then once you're writing it down, you then create this aspect of, in your everyday life, you're looking at like, that's how my idea or my pivot could have been a part of this world. I'm going to take that skill and consider how it's going to help me. If I had my business right now, I would have been great in this instance. You start looking at the world differently when you write down what you want to do.
Yep.
I'm trying to get into journaling and morning affirmations, but that could be a part of like your morning affirmations and your morning journaling. You just simply writing down what you want to do, part of your morning routine. Karen gave me a book. I don't have it with me. It's like the 10 ways to a morning routine, or how to develop the perfect morning routine. Or point being, it's talking about morning routines. And I don't know if your podcast is gonna have links, but that's like a good like book to like.
If you remind me, I can definitely put it.
Yeah, that's a good book that I'm finishing up, but it just talks about developing your morning routine. So in your morning routine, or your night routine, or whichever routine, because you should have a routine, that's where you want to write that down. And then every day, make a small change that you want to do to make towards your pivot. So if you're going to learn a skill, okay, for this next month, you're going to better whatever the skill is. So if you want to go into videography, and photography, all right, every day you're going to learn different types of cameras. It doesn't mean you have to invest the money, because obviously you may not have the money, but learn different cameras. Go on the internet and look at all of the different research. Anybody in your circle who may have a camera, try out their camera for a day.
There's a lot of different, I guess this is kind of specific to what you're talking about now, but there's a lot of different places you can rent cameras.
Correct.
Instead of buying it, so you can test it out.
Yeah, and there's different things. Just like if your pivot requires equipment, just figure out ways to like use that equipment for cheap, or rent, or friends. But every day, just you want to work on a skill, and you want to. It takes 30 days to make something a habit or to learn something. So at least do that skill or whatever you're going to do for 30 days before you either add more on or move on to a new one. So yeah, just as you're creating your list about why you want to make your pivot, figure out the skills that you want to slowly start doing. And then I would say give yourself at least that 3 to 6 month period to really sit down and think through, if you haven't already, think about your pivot. Once you get to that 6 month mark is when you want to start thinking about, okay, what is my timeline for my pivot? If you haven't thought about it already. I have this degree, and this is how I think I could do it. And this is probably some of the steps I'm going to have to do it in. Here's my timeline. You want to start thinking about that timeline. I would say holistically, your beginning plan should take about a year. Again, timelines shift, but if you're really thinking about doing a pivot, more often not, between talking with people, planning, taking small little skills, putting yourself in doing research, it's gonna take a year. You can't learn everything in a month, and
especially if you have your whole life, you're still living your life. Like,
correct, yeah, and especially if you're only doing it in small times, you're probably only gonna have an hour, maybe 3 hours during the week, and maybe 5 hours on the weekend, let's say you have, and that's between both Saturday and Sunday, and then Monday to Friday, and it's
not gonna be every day either. Sometimes, like,
exactly,
you have things to do. You need to do self-care sometimes, and think life get in the way sometimes. So
exactly. So yeah, and then once you get into that year mark and 2 year mark, you should start making very longer and more concrete strides. So start doing small things. So using my example of a videographer, photographer, start taking small pictures, maybe headshots of people that are asking. Start taking pictures around in your neighborhood of landscapes or whatever your medium's going to be. Start doing the small projects, things that aren't going to be too daunting on your life or that are very task oriented, things that come natural and things that will at least help you better your craft. And then once you start that, then you want to then we want to do the scary part. We want to share it with people, because that's the thing. You can't just make your pivots and
keep it to yourself.
If you're going to make your pivots more than often, you're going to need an audience to say, hey, that's a good pivot, or hey, I think that's going to work for you, and then be ready for their critiques. You're not going to get better in whatever pivot that you're going in life without any critiques in your life, whether that is from your friends, your spouse, or outside people. You have to be able to take some criticism, get a mentor if you need to. But then that's when like that around that third-ish year, you've been putting a little bit more work. That's when getting people's opinions come into play. So you definitely want to do more self-development, and then you want to get the people. And then if you feel like, you're on the right path, then we start making the hard pivot, or the hard, more difficult aspects of that financial aspect, that maybe splitting your time and putting more time into whatever your pivot is going to be, your side, or your new thing in life is going to be. And then it becomes, when is the time to say, okay, this is going to be my new thing. It may forever just be a two-part thing in your life. Maybe, your pivot is more of a pivot to add an addition, and not a pivot to being the main thing in your life. Okay. And that's okay.
Yeah,
that's fine. Maybe it won't be a main thing for 20 plus years, and that's fine. But that I think that's the last step of you figuring out, okay, this is becoming something that I'm loving. It's bringing me financial rewards. It's bringing me just over life fulfillment, or fulfillment in your life, and it's also just bringing other aspects that are great, other benefits. Then maybe that becomes your main pivot. But you always have a backup, so that's a good thing. So like that's usually just, so you're starting with your self-developing, starting with your writing down a list. Then you're getting into, okay, every day we're going to do a task, or every so often doing the small things. And then you have to reach out, got to ask for help. And then we start doing the big financial strides. And then eventually you make the decision on if this is something you want to do, or you could just drop it.
Yeah, I was gonna add to that, like the beginning stages, which you were talking about, two things. One, don't be afraid to do things for free, especially if it's like in the arts or in the entertainment or that kind of field, because that's how you get the experience that you're looking for. A lot of people, especially when you're talking about spending money, they're like, okay, let me see what you have to see if I want to spend money with you. If you have nothing, then there's no reason for them to like want to work with you, unless it's maybe family or something that really want to support you. But don't be afraid to work for free to get your name out there, because you're not just like you're not just getting more experience, you're building a network too, because once you start working with people, when they see your work, they'll want to work with you in the future. They want to spread your name to other people as well. But again, when working for free, I was gonna touch on that too. You gotta know when it's time to start like charging. So and
you can start at a, you don't have to charge the high end, but like you can always
change. Yeah, you can always change your prices. So
or do it as an exchange. All right, I'll do this. Give me some food, or give me a place to stay, until we work to the actual, the financial, the money part. But don't
work for free forever.
Like, you gotta. There's a time. Balance.
And then the second thing I was gonna say is give yourself grace and patience.
Yes.
Like, you're not going to be perfect. No. There are going to be times when you fail. There are going to be times when you want to give up, or you might give up for a little while. Relax, like do what you can do, and then get back to it. Like, this life that we're living is not a sprint. It's not something you have to get done within a year. It's something that you have to get done like it's a journey. So take your time, give yourself grace, be patient with yourself, and do little things to get what you want to get, because like those things will add up.
Yeah.
So definitely those are two things I would say. But as we get close to the end of this episode, is there anything else that we haven't talked about, or any questions I might not have asked that you think can help others when it comes to this pivot question?
No, I'm just a big advocate of, like I said, get your degree. Like, I think a degree is powerful, but it's how you use that power.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you get your degree in, just as my mom would always say, be the best at what you're going to do. Always have the mindset that you're the best at it, or you're going to be the best at it. And when you're going to be the best and you always have that mindset, you will eventually get there. So, you're your hardest critique, and it's okay. Don't beat yourself up about it. That's something I'm still working on. I actually had an anxiety attack like 2 days ago. That's it. But that's not it. But I was putting too much pressure on yourself. So understand that you will be your hardest critique at the end of the day if you're somebody who really wants to see your work thrive. But yeah, you get your degree. And we didn't get into it. Even if you don't want to go get your degree first, get a trade, go into the workforce, and then come back for your degree. Again, you don't have to go get your degree right away. Mm-hmm. A lot of 18-year-olds don't know what they want to do when they come to college. That's fine.
Unless you say you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. And even when you say that, because I said I wanted to be a doctor when I first started college, and that's not the path that I'm taking. So 18-year-olds, if you don't know what you want to do, you're totally okay.
It's
you're
okay.
in the right spot. Yeah. You're good.
Yeah, don't let people pressure you into doing what you don't want to do. The whole idea, didn't touch on that, the whole idea of family lineage or keeping whatever family tradition you have or family mindset. Mm-hmm. It's your life. It's your degree. If you want that degree, get that degree. If you want to make that pivot, make that pivot. If it makes you happy, that's all that matters at the end of the day. And you'll have the right people to support you where you need to support.
Yeah.
Family may not always be there to support you. It is what it is. Sorry to tell you the truth.
You're literally the only person that's going to be with you 100% of your life. So you got to do what makes you happy. Of course, you don't want to do things that harm other people or make or hurt somebody else. But you're hurting their feelings, and as long as you're not doing it intentionally, you just have to do what you want to do. Yeah. So I would say that I'm a strong advocate for making that pivot. Just make sure that you have a good stance, a good ground to make your pivot. Make sure you have at least some form of skills, or even if you don't have the skills, just having the determination and drive alone will help you. And you have to see it through. It's not going to be easy. It will be hard to make a pivot in your life, especially if you went to school for one thing and that's not what you're coming out to do. It's okay. I know you put the money into that degree, but it's not going to go waste. It won't go wasted as long as you plan and understand that hey, I have these skills that I've grabbed, and I'm going to use them effectively in whatever the pathway I decide to do. So I know I'm not going to be an engineer or stay in engineering all my life. I know that for a hard fact, but I learned things in my engineering degree that I think I would never have learned in other fields, or maybe wouldn't have learned as much in other fields. So yeah, definitely. And then last question, you kind of said this already, but is there one or two things that you want to make sure that people, if they don't get anything outside of this episode, that they make sure they understand and get this and bring this with them? Yes.
Number one, and this is on credit of my mom, be the best at what you're going to do. Be the best at who you are. Always strive to be the best at anything you're going to do. And the other thing is, more since if you're going to make the pivot, just make sure the pivot is for you and for nobody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I agree.
Yeah.
So, thank you again for coming on to this podcast and giving out your knowledge and your wisdom.
I'm so happy for you. I'm excited. I will be back on for another topic if you want me to, but I'm excited for you, Josh, to see where this goes. It's gonna be weird to hear myself recording because I don't like that, but it is what it is.
I do this. I have to do. Well, I'm getting used to hearing myself because I do it a lot. So
yeah, and I'm excited to hear all your other guests because I know I'm only a small snippet in all the beautiful minds you're gonna have on here, and I'm glad to be one of those people that you've considered, and glad I was able to take the time out to help you.
Well, definitely, and I appreciate you. I'm glad that this is, and for all the people I recorded already and going to be recording. If it's more of like we're both appreciative of what we're both doing, I feel like it's a even kind of trade where it's not like one person is doing all the work and the other person is just like volunteering or whatever. So I'm glad it's a mutual appreciation. But I do want to say, if you want to shout out anything or plug anything that you might be working on, or you want people to...
You know what's crazy? I hear this all the time on podcasts, like shout out something. Like everybody has something. I don't really have anything. I think the only thing I have is, yes, if you're interested in Arbonne and healthy living and you want some tips or tricks, or even join me in the 30 Day to Healthy Living program that Arbonne offers, you can go to arbonne.com and look at the products that they have. I am an independent consultant. If you want to reach out to me, you can at Brianna, BRIANNA.Smyles, SMYLES at yahoo.com, and I could explain more about Arbonne and why it's changed my life. Besides that, if you're but want to talk more about the idea of pivoting in your life or having that support or understanding what that looks, or if you just want more details, you could reach out to me. I do not mind that. And I could give you insight on that. Or if you just want insight on why engineering, or if you need to do, you can reach out to me. I have a lot of engineering friends. I'm an engineer myself. I could definitely let you into that world. So those are really the only things to shout out. I don't have like any big major projects or anything. And if you're an engineer and you're Black, join NSB. I'll shout that out all day. NSB. And if you're going to Northern Illinois, go to the NSB chapter at Northern. Okay. That's it.
No, I was gonna say like some people just shout out like their significant other or their kids or something. So you could get that too. So
okay, I like to shout out like Karen, Soraya, on my Nesby chapter. I got Dia. She's not an engineer, but she's a ride or die that I met in college. Oh, all my all my people that I started with, like Jordan and CJ, they were all my buddies in college when we first started. It's a lot of people. Anyways, mom and dad, obviously, and my sister. Okay. That was fun. But yes, that's all I have.
Well, again, thank you for being a guest and sharing your wisdom with the people who are listening. And to the listeners, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everything that you guys do as well. And as always, until next time, continue your journey until you reach your success. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of the Lazenby Experience podcast. I really hope you were able to receive valuable information that will help you take actionable steps to get you closer to achieving your goals. If this is true for you, I would really appreciate it if you share this episode with others, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to continue receiving updates on new episodes. I truly am excited about how my experience, the Lazenby Experience, can make a difference in your life. Again, thank you for listening to the Lazenby Experience podcast. And until next time, continue your journey until you reach your success.